What's going on? Charles Botensten here from the YouTube channel Charles Botensten, I guess. I don't even know what my YouTube channel is called. Probably right around there. All right, so what are we going to be talking about today, folks? What is on my mind? Money, finances, wealth. It's what everyone wants in life, huh? So this is going to be probably one of the better episodes that I actually record, and I highly recommend really paying attention because it's something that I didn't know, and they probably don't talk about it in school because the people that are actually talking about it in school they're not actively doing it. You know, it's like, do you talk to Michael Jordan about playing basketball, or do you talk to someone that read a book and is teaching basketball? No, you talk to Michael Jordan about basketball. You talk to Warren Buffett about money. You talk to someone that's in social media like Gary Vaynerchuk. You talk to aeronautics, Elon Musk. You know, whatever, or actual programming and coding from Zuckerberg. You don't talk to someone that read a textbook, that is not actively applying it. And this is, just as a side note, one of the issues with schooling is that people read a textbook, but the textbook is written by people that have never built wealth, have never actually worked in a company that was, say, not all of them. I'm not blanketing everyone, but the far majority, because everything I used in school, I'm like, I wish I had YouTube. I wish I had podcasts. It's the same thing with the podcast I'm going to talk about today. I wish I had this when I was younger, because I literally went through life until 25, probably about 25, thinking that that's it. That wealth is for other people, that money is for other people, that there is a ceiling. Okay? So, and we'll talk about that because one of the most important things, to be honest, is your mindset. And I've talked about it ad nauseum on other things, but nothing could be more true than wealth in so many different ways. Number one is self-sabotaging. Number two is actually making more money, that you deserve more money, not overspending, saving, investing correctly, things like that. So we'll just start first about my story. So then you have an understanding where I'm coming from. Maybe we share examples or whatever. So first, I can't actually tell my story without actually bringing up that I am Catholic, but Christian. So within the Christian religion, unfortunately, having money, obviously a wealthy person going through an eye of a needle, then getting into heaven. So, and then obviously the lust of money and things like that. There's so many bad things about it. And the reason being is that most Christians came from Ireland or Italy, where Italy had more money. I came from Ireland, and a lot of the Christians within the area are from Ireland, and Ireland doesn't have any money. I don't know if you've been there, but Ireland doesn't have that much money. All the Irish that came here, they were not only Christian, but they weren't actually allowed really many of the desk jobs. Like my grandfather wasn't allowed, when he first came here, he wasn't allowed to work anywhere besides really the police department and the FDNY, because everything else, they said Irish need not apply. And I'm not sitting here as like, oh, poor me. I'm not saying that. It's just that mentality of I'm not good enough goes into your finances. If you don't think you're good enough, you're not going to try and strive to make more money. And say you strive to make more money, you're going to self-sabotage yourself. And we'll talk about something called the temperature. There's a buying temperature, which is how likely is a prospect to actually buy right now, a buying temperature. But there's also a wealth temperature. How much money are you comfortable making? Because if you're not comfortable making a lot of money, you're never going to have a lot of money because you feel that you're not worthy. And all of these principles, the reason I bring it up is because you have to look at yourself. You have to look at if you're around a ton of money, you're used to that. You're used to nice things. You're used to expensive houses and vacations and cars and watches and whatever, which is all external things that you don't need to be happy about. But it's kind of just like, it's like a nice thing to have. That's really what it is. If people, one of the things, listen, Ty Lopez, great guy with the knowledge, and, he gives out a ton of material and he's very motivational. But the one thing that I wish he just reined back was giving out the cars and the watches and the money and the cash and having the girls around and he's selling something that people are thinking that that's going to bring them the happiness, when in fact it's the journey of failing, falling on your face, of self-development, of building the wealth that actually is the happiness. Because this is the thing. If I gave you $1 million, you'll be happy immediately. It's like buying a new phone or shoes or whatever you want, whatever you think is valuable. I give that to you. You have it. The law of diminishing returns. You then start actually valuing it less. If I give you a phone, you want the next one 6 months later. You want a new iPhone next year. That's why Apple is so successful. But it's not just Apple. Apple is very good at marketing, but people just get really bored because of the culture. It's instant gratification. And that's the thing, is that building true wealth is not instant. It is not instant. Okay? There are cases of it. Instagram. Not Snapchat. What's the other one? Facebook, or I think Facebook bought it. Yeah, Facebook bought it. WhatsApp bought it for $18 billion. Listen, yes, there's cases of it, but 99.9999999% you have to build it by compounding the wealth. Why am I talking about this? Because this is the thing: is if you get into a really good job, or like I said before, I give you $1 million, you're going to spend all of it and you're back to normal, and your mindset has not changed. You got the money, but your mindset is exactly the same. And this was the problem with me, is that I was a caddy when I was younger. So I'll go back to the sort of the beginning. So the Christian religion, listen, it's great because there's a lot of morals and ethics and things about it. And I still practice the morals and the ethics, and I should be going to church more, but it has nothing to do with preaching or whatever. If you're atheist, if you're agnostic, if you're Jewish, I don't really care. It doesn't really matter. However, within the Christian religion, unfortunately, there's not a real, look at, in New York City, I live in New York City, 18 of the 20 wealthiest real estate people are Jewish, because within there, they value money. They value building wealth within their culture, within their religion, within the culture of Christianity. Unfortunately, they say that we should give it away, that we shouldn't have it, that the poor and the destitute will, I'm trying to quote some biblical phrases. But why am I bringing that up? Because if you grew up in that environment, and it doesn't have to be Christianity. It could be someone that says, I hate poor people. Your father, your mother, your spouse, someone that says, I hate the 1%. Well, guess what? You're never going to be wealthy. You will never be wealthy if you hate the 1%, because you're never going to be something that you hate. Your ego, your mind, your capital self, capital S self, will never want to become that person because you don't like them. Okay? It's the same thing with a certain industry or business or person, or even a political party. Like, people are like, oh, I don't want to do business with this political party. That's just absolutely astronomical. I could talk about, but that's the thing, is that you have to question your core belief of what you grew up. What was the environment you're around? Because if I tell you what to do, it doesn't matter, because the core subconscious has not changed. So you have to go deep down there, okay? So what did I grow up? My dad, to this day, even though I tell him every time, I'm like, Dad, I just got off the phone with them and love them to death. My dad always says, be careful, watch your back, blah, blah, blah. But that was the thing, is that he's passing that down from his parents, who grew up during the Great Depression, and my mom's generation, who the Irish were not allowed jobs. So the example was that he went into, I think, J.P. Morgan Chase, and they said, no, Irish are not. I think he actually had to change his last name, because it was I think it was Brogue or something like that. The Irish Brogue. So that got passed down to my parents, and then my parents instilled that until finally, 25 years old, I said, oh my gosh, I am under old programming. And then I had to change my subconscious mind. But the problem is, it's still that underlying belief. Listen, I love money. I love wealthy people, as long as you make it morally and ethically. I I love them because it takes a lot of hard work. They give the most amount of money, and it's something to aspire to. The thing is with me is that when I started to make a lot of money, I would self-sabotage myself and start spending things. And I see that even to today, where I'll get a windfall of money and then I'll buy a seminar, go on buy a ton of books or whatever, which is good. But that's my quote unquote subconscious mind saying you're not worthy of having this amount of money. So you have to slowly get through that. Okay, that's the first thing is dig deep down, as Arnold Schwarzenegger says, deep down and find out what your upbringing was about, what they talked about. Did they like money? Did they not like money? There's some people that don't like to they don't like to save money. Then my sister, she saves a ton of money. That's all she does. She saves to the kazoo. My brother, on the other hand, he really likes nice things. So he's actually right in between. He saves a lot, but he likes nice things. I, on the other hand, I'm a spender. And I don't, it's good that I admit it because then I could change it and work backwards and say, listen, I got to go to saving and spending, because to be honest, I always thought that money bought you happiness, which it doesn't. And it's easy to talk about it, but watch what you do, not what you say or what you think. Okay. So number one is, grew up middle class. My first cell phone was in college. My birthday parties weren't over the top. We were probably middle class, I would say. Didn't have over the top things. Money was a concern most of the time. And, cable, we didn't have cable growing up because it was, they thought it was unnecessary. The cell phone, unnecessary, things like that. So just know that and understand that, is that you have to know what your childhood was like because you are a replica of that. So moving on, okay? The next question you have to ask is, are you comfortable around money? Are you comfortable around a yacht? Are you comfortable around wealthy people? Are you comfortable at a gala, whatever you want to call it, gala, wearing a black tie suit, seeing a lot of money, paying $15, $20 for a drink? What is your mindset around very expensive things? Do you look up to it? Do you accept it? Do you hate it? Do you not like it? Do you think it's a waste? Do you think it's worthy? You have to know when you're around wealth, because what I used to know is that, or used to think is that here's a perfect example. Where do you go to eat? Where do you go to hang out? Where do you go to drink? Where do you go to buy clothes and things like that? And I'm not saying that the nicer things are, say, better or anything else, but are you comfortable around money? Because if you're not comfortable around money, you're going to give it away. Because you say, subconsciously, I'm not comfortable having this amount of money or being in the stores or the yachts or where do you go out? Do you go to the local dive bar? Do you go to a nice high-end place? Do you go to the lounges? Are you fine with a $20 martini as opposed to a $2 PBR? And I'm not talking about because you're in college and below, but in general, what do you like? Me, myself, and Irene. No, myself, I was very uncomfortable around money. It's not like I didn't like them. I really liked wealthy people. It's just I felt uncomfortable. I felt that I wasn't worthy. I felt that it wasn't good. Or not that it wasn't good. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. That's that. I put my identity on, which is such garbage. Your identity is essentially why we have and don't have things, unfortunately, is because of that identity. But what is your identity about money? All right? Because you could have there's two mindsets around money. One is poor mindset and the other one's a broke mindset. Okay? And I'm sorry. The two states of money is broke and poor. Okay? So if you're in the state of being broke, that means you just don't have any money. Okay? There's tons of people. Elon Musk, he said he needed to borrow money in 2009 because he poured all of his money. He didn't know if he was going to be able to make any, he had like a week left in business before filing bankruptcy. He was broke. That's not poor. Poor means that's a mindset. Broke means you just don't have money right now, but you know how to accumulate it. You hear it all the time. People talk about, if I lost everything, I'll be able to make it back, because they still have the mindset of how to make the money. And it's the same thing. There's this whole thing about redistribution of wealth or trickling down effect. The problem is if everyone received $1 million, slowly but surely, all of the money would be going back to the same people because they provide wealth. So the redistribution of wealth is a myth because you can't do that. There's no real moral sound way to redistribute wealth, because if you really take too much from the poor, you're going to end, or from the rich, I should say. When you take too much from the rich and you give it down to someone that, and I'm not saying someone that really needs it, but the thing is, the redistribution of wealth is really just saying anyone that makes a ton of money, give it to anyone else that doesn't make a ton of money. Say someone that makes 50 or 60 or 70,000. Really, the mindset should be around, are you happy? Not around money, because they say that incrementally up until $70,000, you incrementally get a little bit happier because you're able to maybe not be stressed out about your next paycheck, your next rent check or food or things like that. But once you hit $70,000 in America, you literally, first of all, you are in the 1/100th% in the world if you make $70,000, because most people, I think it's 2/3 live on $2 a day. Okay, so let's just put that in perspective, first of all. Second of all, when you make $70,000, really, once you make a little bit more than that, all you're doing is getting a little bit nicer of a car, a little bit nicer clothes, a little bit nicer house. So you still have the basic needs. You're just getting a little bit nicer. And they say it flatlines after $70,000 because you already have your basic needs met at $70,000. And if you have two incomes at $70,000, you have $140,000 of money. Like, that's insane, okay? Let's put that in perspective, okay? Put that in perspective. I wasn't making that kind of money until like 28 or 30. I don't even know if I really think about it. So this is the thing is, broke, don't have money, poor is a mindset. That's why you have to look at your mindset, okay? A millionaire, and we're going to go into deeper. Here we go. And then we'll go into actual actionable items on how to build wealth and things like that. Why am I talking about this? It's the same thing with the foundation. Listen, if I can tell you this is how you shoot a free throw, but if you're out of shape or you party or you do drugs, you're not going to be successful. You're like, okay, great, I know how to shoot a free throw, but you can't run up and down the court. You can't defend. People are going to go around you. You know, it's like invest in this, but if you have no money or you spend all your money or you're not saving your money, it's the same thing. You need the foundation for wealth. The foundation for wealth is, what's my mindset around wealth? What's my mindset around money? How did the people in my environment when I was younger, how did they think about money? Did they like money? They did not like money? Who are the people I hang out with now? Are they positive? Are they negative towards wealth? What's your mindset? That's everything. And I'm going to go into it. Being a millionaire is a mindset, okay? You know, if I told you that, I don't know, Richard Branson made $1 million last year, he would go crazy. $1 million. He's like, what? Because his mindset, his temperature, so we'll go into the temperature right now, is that, say you have a temperature of making 40,000 or 10,000 or 1,000 a year or a month or however you want to do it. You have a temperature of what you feel is your ceiling right now. Like my temperature, I don't want to give a number, but everyone really has a quote unquote ceiling. They feel that until they actually reach that ceiling, not only reach it, but they stay at that ceiling. So I'll give you an example. When I first started out in the job world, I made $42,000, which was an insane amount of money. I was like, I don't deserve this, so I spent all my money, and then I became broke. I didn't say poor, I became broke because I still had the mindset of making that amount of money. Then that became my baseline. So then when I started in real estate, my baseline was to make $40,000. So the first year I made 35, pretty close. Then it went to, I think, 39,000. Then the third year I made, I don't know, 43, 45, whatever, right around there. And then it started going up from there. And then I started saying 70, then 100,000. And I'm like, wow. I'm like, that's the thing is that if I make below a certain amount of money, I get really anxious inside. If I make above a certain amount, I also get really anxious. So you have to know where your buying temperature is. Okay, not your buying temperature, but your wealth temperature. This is so important because if you go above this is what happened. The first time I made $100,000, I bought all this really nice shit. I went on all these great trips, and then I became broke, because my my wealth temperature, I keep saying buying temperature, my wealth temperature was not at $100,000 yet. It was still at 70,000. So I spent that 30 grand, except my lifestyle was at 30 grand. My lifestyle was at 70 grand. So then I had no money, no savings. I had nothing left over because I spent all the 30,000, and then my lifestyle was at 70,000. So then I had no money. So what I had to do was get comfortable with having $100,000 being made. For you, it could be whatever, $1 million, 500,000, 10 million, 100 million. I think what's his name? Donald Trump's That's funny. Donald Trump's tax return from 2009? I don't know. It got leaked, and he made 250 million or something ridiculous. His his wealth temperature is pretty freaking high, regardless of his political beliefs and everything like that. But if he made $10 million, he would freak the hell out because his whole lifestyle of having a jet and all that other garbage or good things, See, that's the thing is I said garbage. I shouldn't say garbage because then I look down on those things like having a jet, which is one of the things I do want to have because it saves me time. Like the watches and the vacations, I don't really care about that. But to be honest, things that buy my time back, like having someone clean my house so I don't have to, or someone that schedules my day and so I don't have to, like those things buy back my time. Going on a really expensive vacation or buying a $15,000, $20,000 watch or a really nice car, I don't really care about that. Like maybe I will one day, but I have no desire. I live in New York City. Getting a driver is way better than taking the subway, which I do now. I city bike through the streets because it gets me to my destination faster than a subway. Because the subway, you wait, and sometimes, obviously. So watch what you say around wealth. You may not agree with political beliefs of people. However, the wealth side is really what you should pay attention to. So my wealth temperature, see what your wealth temperature is. So that's the thing is that once I made it, I had to be comfortable at making $100,000 and maintaining that wealth temperature. All right, moving on. So how do you actually fix your money problems? I had money problems for quite some time because I didn't know that I needed a different mindset. I would make whatever amount of money and then I would spend everything. I was a caddy for 7 years. I started at age 12 in a caddy. You go out to a golf course and we made, I remember the first time that someone gave me the full amount. I was probably 13 years old and I did a badass job. And I was doing a badass job the whole time, but the thing is, I wore a white penny. So the white penny was that you're brand new. A penny is like a little shirt that you wear, and it kind of just dictates how much you should get paid. So a white penny was you made $40 around. A blue penny was you made 60, and a green penny was that you made $80. And it was really how good you are. And trust me, there's really bad caddies, and then there's really good caddies. So it's really based on how good you are. So I was brand new, and I deserved the white penny. I deserved the $40. But this is the thing. I remember it. Someone gave me $80, and I was like, oh my gosh. I'm like, that's insane. Someone just gave me $80. I'm 13 years old, $80 cash. I've never seen that kind of money. And I remember I spent all of it immediately. But this is the funny thing is, I then expected my value went up because someone paid me for my value. This is the opposite, is that you should feel you're valuable and get paid accordingly. What happened was I got paid accordingly, and because I got paid accordingly, I then felt I was valuable. Very different there. Very different. If you feel your services are worth a lot of money, you will be paid accordingly because you'll go over the top. You'll provide way better customer service, a better product, a better experience. But the thing is, you can't charge a lot of money if you don't provide the value. So that was the thing is my mindset was around a white penny, a brand new caddy making $40 a round instead of $80. But once that $80 came in, I said, you know what? I deserve this. And then my whole mindset changed, and I went to my boss, and he said, no, you can't go from white to green. You have to go from white to blue. So I then went to a blue penny, and I remember just like I felt, it felt like I was not being valued correctly in a blue penny, because I'm standing there, I'm like, I got $80, I'm providing $80 worth of service, yet I'm getting paid 60 because I have this stupid blue penny on, and people see your value. It's a very big concept. I actually forgot about that until now, and really good learning, very good learning, especially if you're in a service industry or products for that matter. So number one is you need to plan how to make money. If you have no plan, listen, I talk about goals all the time, and I know this is a very long podcast, but I cannot tell you how important a plan is, because otherwise it's like you stick a ship out in the ocean, and they're like, okay, take me wherever. I don't really care. They're like, so do you want to go to, say back in the day, 1700 or 1300s, and you're Magellan or Columbus or Ortiz or Cortez or whoever, and what, you stuck your boat in the ocean? They had a destination. They said, we want to go to India to get spices. We want to go to South America to get wealth, or we want to find a better way around Africa, go down Cape Horn. It was like they had a destination. No one would give you the actual pioneer. They would never give Columbus, they would never fund his trip unless he had a destination. It's the same thing. That's an amazing example, is that no one is going to fund your project, your service, your company. No one's going to give you money unless there was an actual destination for you to bring them on. Real estate, someone pays me money to make sure that I bring them to a destination, which is sell my apartment, find me apartment, rent out my apartment, manage my apartment, build my apartment. Whatever the case is, there is a destination. So you feel people should pay you. You don't know what for, but people should just pay you, okay? Do you know what we call that? Entitlement. Do you know what Charles really hates? Entitlement. No one, you are not entitled to anything. I don't care. You're entitled to what, say, the Constitution provides you, and that's it. Everything else, you are not entitled to. Look at the rest of the world, okay? Number one is entitlement means that you become stagnant. When I started becoming, and that's what happens in all businesses. There's a lot of businesses out there, they feel they're entitled to business because of their name. But another company comes along, say BPI, which is the company I own, Botensten Properties International. I come along and I say, here's the service we're going to provide you. And they say, wow, okay, yeah, I think, yeah, that's we'll take that. We'll take that. So the company that was entitled to it didn't work for it. I worked for it, I got it, and then the other company says, you know what, that's crazy. Look at all the companies that fail. They got Nokia. Nokia owned like a 90 or like an 85% market share, cell phone market share, like something ridiculous, and then it started going down. I don't know if it was that high, maybe whatever, but they sold millions, tens of millions, maybe hundreds of millions of phones every single year. They got lost, and then they went out of business. Netflix took over Blockbuster. Amazon took over Best Buy, Circuit City, all those companies, because they didn't believe that people would actually look at Barnes and Noble. It's like it's the same thing. Audible is just exploding now. Podcasts are exploding because that's where people are. That's why I started the podcast. Number one is that it feels good to not be on camera and just spill my mind, and it's a longer form of actually giving directions. So if you're stagnant, it means you're entitled. You have to shove your ego away and then say, listen, I'm not entitled to anyone's business. I had a client that ended up working with someone else literally last week. I thought I was entitled to their business because we recently did a transaction. That's my fault. That's not the client. That's my fault. That's not the client. That was me being stagnant, all right? So do not be entitled. Being entitled means money should just come to you. That means that you don't have a plan. Okay, what does the plan entail? Let's go a little bit further into this. And, I'll start wrapping this up because I have no idea how much time I've been talking. But number one is the plan has to be there's really, I could talk about business and whatever, but we'll talk about two aspects. Number one is active lead generation. Okay, the plan must include, how am I going to get leads? Okay, that leads could be, say you work for someone. How am I going to actively provide them with value? Okay. How am I going to actively provide my employer? When I was a caddy, how did I actively provide the golfers with value? What did I do? I was fun. I was enthusiastic. I worked my ass off. I ran around in hot July summers and in New York, and there was no shade, and it was insane. It was like literally, it's like it's one of the hardest jobs. Listen, I understand. I'm not saying it's dangerous. I'm saying it's one of the grueling jobs of a young person, while all my other friends were like working in movie theaters, air-conditioned movie theaters, and just ate garbage food. And, they didn't get paid as much. However, totally different. So number one is, what is the value you're giving? So within value, it's, if you own your own business, I'll talk to the two people. Number one is, if you own your own business, you have to have an active lead generating platform. That active lead generating platform is not to sit back and passively market. It means to actually reach out to people. Go to my, I just did an amazing CRM. Well, I think it's amazing. I did a whole thing about a CRM. So if you go to BPIU, BPI is the company owned BPIU University. If you go to BPIU or you go to Botensten Properties International, I did a whole podcast about CRMs, customer relationship manager. You need to have an active lead generation within there. Number two is you have to have that's active. Okay. Then you have to have a passive. The passive is marketing. Show success stories. Show value, give value. If you're in real estate, you give market updates, market statistics. You provide them with big, beautiful homes, new developments, new buildings, new ways to save money, new tax things. And obviously, say I'm not an accountant or whatever, you have to provide the passive customer service. That's kind of just like the sprinkling on the active generating cake, if you want to say it that way. Number two is, there's no way to say this outside of, you have to work hard. You have to work hard. Gary Vaynerchuk talks about being a hustler. You have to work hard. If you're not working hard, if you're not working in the beginning super hard to make your name if you own your own business, or if you're not working super hard to make your name in the business or in the industry or in the company, then you're not going to be paid accordingly. That's one of the biggest things that I hate. Anyone that says, just because I've been here for 10 years, great. You've been here for 10 years, but you suck, or you have that's in real estate. It's the same thing. People, they assume because they've been in the industry for 20, 25 years that people will continuously work with them. It's like, no, you have to call people. You have to put yourself out there. You have to get new clients, because your clients that you worked with don't live in New York, or they are in a home already and they are not moving. They're not selling. They're not buying. So guess what? You have to reach out and ask them for referrals, or you have to get people that are actively in the industry or actively looking to buy or sell. That's real estate. So number one is, you have to work hard. You have to take action. That's part of the working hard. Number three is, you have to have a goal. All right. Goals are one of the most important things. I said have a plan. So the plan is, what am I going to do? Goals are, where am I going? What is the end result for today, this week, this month, this quarter, this year, 10 years? I have a 20 or 25 year plan. And one of the biggest things is, what am I going to do? Where am I going? And then you reverse engineer. I just did one of those where you could look back, one of the podcasts where I actively talk about that, actively working backwards from a plan. Last thing is a budget, okay? And then we'll talk about building. And I know this is a very long podcast, but I hope there's a couple things in here that you really take away. You have to budget your money. The problem with me in the beginning was, I didn't budget my money. I had no idea how much money was going out. I had no idea how much money was coming in. Started my own business, BPI. I had no idea what was going in, what was going out. It took me 2 years into the business. We're turning 3. It took me until last year to be like, okay, I got to get an accounting software, because we're expanding. We're bringing in more money. We're bringing in more business. We might hire a full-time videographer or content person. And like, if we don't know what we're doing, then, no one will work with us, or we can't grow because we don't know where we're at. So you have to budget your money. I use Xero, which is Xero. I think I pay, I don't know, $15 or $20 a month. Super easy. It just does the basic accounting. Obviously, that's all you have to know, because then you'll track those stupid purchases on a Friday evening when you're bored, and then you buy something you don't need. Like I just bought I'm looking at it, iPhone stabilizer is like $215, and I was gonna bring it because I do Facebook Live. That's a stupid purchase because I went to my videographer. He's like, yeah, I got one. We'll just use that. I said, perfect. So I'm gonna return this back to Amazon and say, I got another better price somewhere else, which I actually did see at a video store. Not video store, but a camera store called B&H in New York City. I don't know if you've heard of it. But, okay, so one of the biggest things, so we'll talk about books, okay? And I know books to read. Number one is, or two books, is Money, Master the Game by Tony Robbins. And then his second one, which it was kind of like a rehash of the first one, but he's really talking about right now that something's going to happen in the future and da-da-da. So number one is you have to know, that's an amazing book, Money Master the Game by Tony Robbins. If you haven't read it, I think I have a book review up somewhere on my YouTube channel. Go to the YouTube channel and check it out. And it's essentially so why did I talk about everything before? Because if you have no money, it's the reason you don't have any money, or the reason you don't have money, okay, let me start that over. There is a reason you don't have money. The same reason I didn't have money was because I wasn't either providing enough value, I was spending too much, I wasn't saving anything, I had no idea what was going in and coming out within my bank account. Number 5 is that I didn't feel I was worth it, so I'd overspend. There's so many things, okay? So now we finally have money, okay? Or we start building wealth, okay? There's three types, really. Actually, number one is, two types, and then within 2 types of money. Number 1 is active, 2 is passive. Active is you work for it, passive is where it just comes in. So active is I work a certain amount of hours and I get paid for a certain amount of money. Okay, I work at a job, they pay me for those hours. Real estate, it's transactional. Transactional means once I'm done with the transaction, I get paid on the transaction, and that's it. There's no residual income. Okay, residual income means that, which is in passive. Passive means you don't actively work for it, and I'll get deeper into that in a second. So passive means that you own real estate and money just comes in. Okay, because you own real estate and you rent it out, that's passive income. Someone lives there and they pay rent and that comes to you. You're not actively selling them something every single month, or you're not actively going to that. A hotel is sort of active and sort of passive because every single night you hope that it's rented out, okay? Which you have to go out and get the business and keep the business, which is active, okay? Passive, the true nature of passive, so there's a couple of jobs, commercial real estate, where they do a deal and they, over that 10-year deal, every single year they get a check. Or royalties, that's a great example, is that royalties, you do a movie and then you do royalties. That's how Jack Nicholson is so wealthy. He took only royalties. That's all he took, was royalties. So he's still making all those, what's the guy from Star Wars, all those smart actors who took, that's the thing, is you could either make $50 million up front or $100 million over 30 years. So all the smart actors, they took residual royalties, and I think there's now a combination of both, but which is smart because then that's going to make the actor actually work harder. So first is active. Active then goes to passive because you build up, you actively have to make money. You can't passively make money without, you actually have to have money to passively make money, or have worked actively to make passive money. All right, I might have confused you a little bit, but you actively work, you save it, and then here's the thing. You have to go into passive income because there's so much active income that you can make before it goes into passive income. So passive income, you need to start having your income or your money making money. It's known as compounding. Your money has to compound because within passive income, if you are just continuously renting out your apartment, you need to take that money and then buy other apartment buildings. Then when you have other apartment buildings, you have someone that manages it. So now you're not even managing it, okay? Now you're just getting a check from that manager and you kind of just check in every once in a while. That my friends, is the ultimate, is when you're not even managing stuff, whether it's hotels or rental properties or anything, or your money. You're not actively managing your money, and your money's just making more money, okay? So that's real, true wealth right there. And that's kind of one of the things that, I feel that Tai Lopez is really lacking. He's not talking about how to build true wealth. He's talking about how to make money immediately up front and then spend it on really expensive cars. He's not a real good guy to listen to. Gary Vaynerchuk is a very good guy because he's worth, I don't know, upwards of 300, 400, 500 million, whatever he's worth, yet he's still walking around the streets. He's still out there actively talking to people, building, and he knows the wealth is going to come because the wealth is already, he now has an 800-person company, and those people are making him more and more money. He's actively going out and getting business, but the passivity of that is really building his wealth. And then he's obviously invested in companies, and that's passive and everything else. Okay, we'll end on this, all right, because I know it's a long podcast. If you focus on what you don't have, it will drain you. If you focus on what you do have, it will drive you. If you focus on what you don't have, it will drain you. If you focus on what you have, it will drive you. Okay? That is what I could really, truly, if you focus on, I don't have money, I don't have watches, I don't have followers, I don't have subscribers, I don't have blah, blah, blah. BPIU, Botensten Properties International, the company I own. I have 10 subscribers. I love those 10 subscribers. And I'm still actively producing content on 10 subscribers for the podcast. If I compared myself to, I don't know, Lewis Howe's School of Greatness, who has, I don't know, whatever, or Gary Vaynerchuk, then I would feel bad, but I'm not actively thinking about that. I know that potentially is a goal, or it is a goal, but I think of it, what drives me is what I'm focused on what I have. I have 10 subscribers. I have people listening to it. So focus on what you don't have, and it will drain you. Focus on what you do have, and it will drive you. And I'll just leave you with the laws of wealth. The other one, obviously, talking about laws of wealth, which is Think and Grow Rich. Have to read that. Must. Because they talk a lot deeper onto a lot of different subjects, taking action. They even go into your sex drive. Your sex drive, if you have a low sex drive, you have a low testosterone or, what's the other one? Testosterone and estrogen. If you look at people that are the most aggressive people, they have the most amount of money because they have a high sex drive. And he talks about that in the book. And the reason being is that they're more willing to fail, or they're willing to take risks. They're willing to do things that other people, they're more willing to be courageous because it's actually an innate hormonal body thing that actually drives them. So we'll just go over the laws of wealth real quick, which is control your spending. You have to control your spending. If you don't control your spending, you have no money to save. If you have no money to save, you have nothing to buy that's going to give you passive income. And if you have no passive income, you're going to actively work until you die. And that sucks. Okay. So number one is control your spending. Number two is earn the right to invest. You have to earn the right to invest. Okay. Those are the laws of wealth. According to Charles Botensten. There's tons out there. Read Tony Robbins' book, and obviously Think and Grow Rich. But go over those last three things. I'll just go over the drive. If you focus on what you have, it will drive you. If you focus on what you don't have, it will drain you. And the laws of wealth, control your spending, number one. You have to know what's going in and out, which is have a budget. And number two is you earn the right to invest. You're not entitled to it. You have to give value. Whether that's in a job or anything else, you have to earn it actively. Then you save it, and then you invest it, and then that investment builds wealth, and then it compounds, and then it's passive, and then you literally are working because you want to and not because you have to. That's the goal of wealth. All right? So have an awesome day. Love you all. I know that was a lot longer. What's the time on that? I don't even know. My battery's ready to run out. 45 minutes. All right, awesome. Well, subscribe, share it, leave your comments. Let me know what you want to talk about. Really, really appreciate all of you guys, and have an awesome day. Talk to you soon.